Hello, good afternoon, and welcome to our episode on Compassion of a Coworker, a living organ donation story. I'm your host, Allie Himes. I'm the Senior Manager of Communication for Providence in Eastern Washington. As a reminder, the information provided during this event is for educational purposes only. If you have any questions regarding medical conditions or treatment plans, please consult with your physicians. And now that we have that out of the way, we can go ahead and get started. We have some great people on today's show. I'm joined by Michelle Thurston, who is an RN BSN and the Living Donor Coordinator for Providence Kidney and Pancreas Transplant. We have Marianne Nichols, who is our organ donor, and you might also notice her because she is our auditor for Pend Oreille County, and Jill Shacklet, our organ recipient. Just thank you so much for joining us today. We're very excited to have you on. And to start off, let's go ahead and just tell our audience a little bit about yourself and how you're connected to this story. Michelle, let's go ahead and start with you.
So yes, thanks for having us on. My name's Michelle, and I am the Living Donor Coordinator who worked with Marianne very closely throughout her donor evaluation.
Thanks so much, Michelle. And that will lead us to Marianne. Marianne, tell us a little bit about yourself.
I'm Marianne Nichols. I'm the Pend Oreille County Auditor. I've been up here for 16 years. This is my 16th year in office. Jill was working here in the office when I started, and so that was how I got to meet Jill.
And Jill,
and
tell us a little bit.
Shacklet, and I received the kidney from Marianne, so generously giving, and I've had kidney disease for most of my life because it's a genetic disease, so I'm very grateful.
Jill, that kind of provides us the best transition. Can you tell us a little bit about your journey with kidney disease?
Yeah, polycystic kidney disease is what I have. It's a genetic disease. Of course, I can go back. My grandmother, my father, my uncle, my aunt, my sister, and several cousins have the polycystic kidney disease. I am the first of this generation to go into the kidney transplant failure zone, which is you can be referred to the kidney transplant center once you're below function is below 20%. And my father and my aunt both had a transplant, but unfortunately my father only made it a month, and my aunt she recently got hers, and she had COVID. So I have to prove to everyone that this can be done in my family, and I am given that opportunity by Marianne.
And that leads us to our next question for you, Michelle. Marianne is a living donor, meaning she gave her kidney, and she's here today. So what does it mean to be a living donor? What are the different kinds of donors, and how can an individual become a living donor like Marianne? Do you have to meet certain qualifications? Tell us a little bit more about that.
Sure. So Marianne, as an example, is a living donor. And so that's any person that's interested in donating their kidney. There's different types of living donors. For us at Providence Sacred Heart, we work with the living kidney donors, and that's what we perform here. But you can be a living lung donor, a living liver donor, donate part of your pancreas, intestine, and part of, like I said, your lung with that. But to be a donor, you have to come forward voluntarily, and you first apply online through our sacredheartlivingdonor.org. That's a website that's specific to our facility. It's about a 10 to 15 minute online questionnaire that goes over just brief health history. In order to come forward, though, we really want donors to be in optimal health, meaning that their weight is at a healthy range, a body mass index of less than 35. They need to be free of diabetes, free of diseases like hypertension or high blood pressure, just really in optimal health, because obviously part of that evaluation is determining if two people can live well with one kidney. And so that's kind of how you get started.
And now, can a donor choose who their kidney goes to?
Absolutely. And so what we call that is directed donation. And that's what occurred with Marianne and Jill. Marianne came forward for Jill. And that can be anybody, a friend, a neighbor, a family member, coworker that knows the recipient. In the non-directed manner, that is just someone that's coming forward altruistically who wants to donate to kind of the program, the area of greatest need, whoever is the recipient that needs it most with that.
Thank you so much. Now, Marianne, how about you tell us on your side of things, what was the process like of becoming a living donor?
It's a pretty incredible process. It was long. It was 14 months from the time I started the process to the time we actually had surgery. COVID got in the way a couple times in there with it, but it was a pretty incredible process. I used to joke around with Jill. I knew a long time ago that she was going to need a kidney. I was like, oh, you can always have one of mine. I've got two. You can have one. And then as it got more and more serious, it was like, I'm still good with this. And it's an incredible process that they put you through. It's not just your health, but it's your mind. You have to have your, make sure that you can handle all of the stuff that goes in with it. There's a lot of emotions that go into it. It was quite the emotional roller coaster from time to time when I'd get one test result back and we're like, oh, I'm not sure if we can move on or not. And so you wait and you wait and you wait. And then it's like, okay, yeah, we can move on. And you just kind of go from step to step to step. And Michelle was fantastic walking me through each of the steps that we had to go through. But the fact that I was healthy enough, I mean, I just feel super blessed that I was able to be healthy enough. And I'd worked hard dropping some weight and trying to get into shape and stuff so that I could try, and be at my, as healthy as I could be with it. But they tested everything. They tested, I think I had probably about every medical test out there. I don't know, probably not, but it felt like it with the 14 months worth of the tests that we went through with all of it. So
you can tell about being the boss. That was your first. Oh.
Yeah. So it's just been a process, and it was a pretty cool process to see and go through and get to meet such a great, fantastic team that they have there. Like I said, we saw a lot of different departments there.
Do you remember some of the tests that you had to go under?
So I had like a nuclear medicine test. I can't remember exactly what that was called. Tons and tons of blood work, the x-rays, the MRI. It wasn't an MRI. It was a CT scan. It seems like I was in all kinds of different machines. I hadn't ever had a lot of these tests ever done before, but EKGs numerous times just to make sure that absolutely everything is as healthy as I could be. And that I wasn't going to have any health issues. They really took care of me, making sure that I wasn't going to move on in the process if it wasn't going to be something my body could do.
And that's very reassuring, especially for a major surgery like a transplant, right? So let's talk about that. How did the surgery go? And Marianne and Jill both go ahead and tell me about your experience.
So I think it was really great for us being able to have it at Sacred Heart. It was really nice because I live in Newport, Washington, and Jill's from Spirit Lake, Idaho, and so we're both just under an hour away from the hospital. So we were able to go back home and stuff after it. But the surgery itself, it was kind of cool. We all showed up at the hospital at the same time. It was cool. I don't know. I just had a lot of God stories along my way with it. I just had a lot of different things that he made me brave, because a lot of people are like, aren't you afraid to go in? And I was like, well, no, not really. I mean, I had such a peace about it. It was really cool. And being able to do it for somebody like Jill was super cool. We went in together that morning, showed up at the same time. It was really cool. Got to be in there at the same time. Do you want to share some of the?
We wore our kidney buddies shirt.
We wore our kidney buddy shirt. We wore kidney buddy shirts. But it was so cool. Afterwards, I was in after I had my surgery and I came out of the anesthesia and stuff, and I was waiting, and they didn't take me to my room. They didn't take me up. And it was so cool because I got to see Jill come in. And before they took me up, they kind of rolled me over, and we got to hold hands, and it was just such a cool moment. The nurses cried and we cried. But it was such a touching, I don't know, just to be a part of something like this was pretty overwhelming. It was pretty amazing.
The technical part of the surgery, they took Marianne in first because they have to take hers out. And so then we were in operating rooms that were right next to each other so that they could bring it back and forth through a sterile area. And Michelle was there. She gave us too. and then of course after I was delayed, but then they started prepping me, and then you don't remember anything else. So until you wake up and get to hold hands and see each other, that was really great.
What was that like after you both woke up and got to see each other for the first time since surgery?
It was super emotional, to be honest. We had nurses crying, both of us, it was so touching. We made it through it. Everything was fine. We were told everything worked the way it was supposed to. It was a success. And like I said, just getting to be a part of that, it was remarkable.
Yeah, I think that's the first thing you think of when you wake up is like, is Marianne, is she okay? And then they brought her by. So I didn't say anything to her. I think we just held hands because I was still just waking up.
Yeah. Oh, that's wonderful.
I just reached for her hand.
Michelle, can you tell us about, what are some of the long-term risks of a kidney donation?
Sure. So being a kidney donor, obviously, it does not come without some risks. And as Marianne knows, there was a lot of education provided along the way with that. Some of the most important things is there's a permanent small percentage of a chance that a donor can develop high blood pressure, develop high protein in the urine, potentially even develop kidney failure to where they would need a kidney transplant. Now, those percentages vary, but it's not without risk. And one thing I do want to kind of point out is that when you become a living donor for kidney, your kidney function is impacted permanently by 25 to 35%. And that never comes back. And some of the ways that patients can mitigate that is by keeping themselves hydrated. If you think about what the kidneys do to kind of flush the impurities out of the body, one of the best way to do that is to at least drink 2 liters of water each day. Avoid medications that can cause kidney failure, such as ibuprofen, Advil, those types of things to help that. And then to have just a moderate protein intake in their diet so that they are really protecting that kidney, maintain a healthy weight, exercise, all things that you would do normally, but you're paying a lot closer attention to that as a kidney donor.
And now, who covers the costs for a living donation?
Sure. The evaluation through the hospitalization and surgery is covered by the transplant program and the recipient insurance. Some of the costs that the donor would incur would be any time off work, travel to the transplant center, because we can have donors donate from all over the country, and we work remotely with them on that. So any time off work, traveling to our center, time off from the surgery, any lodging, meals, and if they have children, childcare.
And one last question for you, Michelle, is there a benefit to having a living donor versus a donor who is at end of life or who has reached end of life?
Absolutely. So when you look at kidney failure in general, there's 3 treatment options. There's really no cure, there's treatment options. And so one of those would be dialysis. Another one would be to receive a deceased donor kidney. So someone that was declared brain dead, a donor such as that. But optimally, being a living donor is the best option because for several reasons. You're looking at a live person that's healthy, that is we go through extensive testing. It takes 4 to 6 months to work up a potential donor, where they're off work after the surgery for 4 to 6 weeks, depending on the physical nature of their job, go through extensive testing. So you really have the opportunity to look at every avenue, kind of like Marianne said, where you're trying to uncover if there's anything that could harm the donor by having them donate, or also from having them donate that would be transmitted to the recipient, such as like infectious diseases that we do that testing. Also, the timing of it, working up a living donor, you have that time to the donor gets to choose when they want to have surgery. Since they're coming forward on a volunteer basis, they can coordinate with the recipient, like Marianne did with Jill, and decide when they want to have surgery. Whereas with a deceased donor, they get notified at all, 24/7, 365 days a year, and usually have a hours to days to come in for that transplant. And so with that, Jill as the recipient, we had the opportunity to make sure that she was up to date on all of her testing and that we were moving forward in a safe manner to have this transplant happen. So really the optimal choice is the living donor. It also lasts longer, 5 to 10 years longer than a deceased donor because of the healthy nature of that, and the fact that the kidney has less cold ischemic time, which is basically described as the time the kidney is out of the body from when it's placed back into the recipient. And with a living donor, obviously, how Jill described that, it went from one operating room to another.
Thank you for that information.
You bet.
I want to talk now about the post-surgery. I have Marianne and Jill both here today, so it obviously was successful. Jill, how has your life changed since having the kidney donation?
Well, if I would not have been able to get the living donation from Marianne, eventually because I was under 20, but I still was able to not have to be on dialysis yet. So eventually, even if you're waiting for a deceased donor, you're on the list, but it can take 3 to 5 years before you, in our area, in other areas, it can be even longer. So I probably would have had to go on to dialysis. And, you have to go to a center. So my life would have changed drastically, having to go get dialysis. They all have dialysis you can do in the evenings at home, but I have the polycystic kidney disease that fills up my whole, so I most likely would not have been eligible for that. So I still get to live a normal life, and because it's a living donor, like Michelle said, it will last me much longer. I think I'd have to ask Michelle how long a deceased donor kidney lasts, but I think it's like 12 years.
Approximately. Living donor transplants generally last between 15 to 20 years. So 5 to 10 years longer than a deceased donor.
So my life is changed dramatically, what my future had in store for me.
What are those things that you're looking forward to with the future?
Well, I like to stay active and like gardening, doing activities with my grandchildren, just getting to travel, just living a regular life is wonderful to think about.
And Marianne, how are you doing?
I'm doing great. We had surgery April 26th, and I'm back to doing everything that I was doing before. I've had no noticeable impact whatsoever on my life. It's pretty amazing. I mean, the worst restriction for me is I can't take ibuprofen anymore. And that's everything else is just fine. I, sometimes look and I'm like, wow, that was just a couple months ago. Did that really happen? Because things are fine, and of course it's major surgery. So that was the hardest part for me, was not doing the things that I usually need to do. And I'm always a very active and busy person. And so, just having to slow down for a couple of weeks in there while I was recuperating and stuff. It took me, a little bit to get used to it, but it was like, oh, this isn't so bad. But yeah, I was back to work within no time. And actually I was working from home. Don't tell Michelle, but I was back to work out from home.
I think we knew.
So yeah, it just, I really haven't had any impact other than I get to, still work side by side with Jill. So.
And we had a question in from the chat, and you just touched on this. They asked, how have you guys known each other prior to the transplant plans? This is such a beautiful story. That's their commentary. It is a very beautiful story. And you both, you've known each other for 16 years working for Polycystic County. Can you tell us about your relationship over the past 16 years?
Jill was working here when I started as the auditor, and we just had a mutual respect for each other and just admiration for each other since that time that I first started here. It's a close office, so of course we work super close together for doing the things that we do here. We traveled together for some conferences and things, and just got to be not just coworkers, but friends and family. You know, it's a family that we have.
Yeah, and I do the financial part for the county, and Mary Ann's elected official. She's really good at speaking. That's why I let her do most of the speaking. And so we're already a team. Like if we go into the commissioner office, Mary Ann, she starts the speaking, and then if there's some technical stuff like Jill has to jump in. Say this part, and then we just throw it back and forth to each other, and it's just always been natural. And I admire her, many of her qualities, and I just think that we are really offset each other's as a team, and it's been a really great relationship. And she's already a generous and caring person. So the day that she said that to me, we were at a conference or something, and she was asking, because I started a plant-based diet because of my kidneys, and that probably brought this up. And then I told her about my kid, and she said, well, you're going to need a kidney someday? I said, well, someday. She says, oh, I'll give you one of mine. And so I just, the type of person she is, I always knew that, you know, she meant it. Because some people say that too. It's nice, but I knew she meant it. And then when the time came, she meant it.
That's amazing. And you have a name for the donated kidney, Esther, right?
We named her Esther because we figured she was created for a time such as this. And, you know, I look at, if I was put into this office for nothing more than to be able to do this for Jill, it's all been worth it. The fact that we matched, we're not family, that we matched as well as we did. It was nothing short of a miracle for us to be able to do this. And
because I see so many people on my support side that have so many people try to donate to them, and they're not a match. And that was the part that I was most nervous about when we got to that part. She had to pass lots of things before we even got there. And I thought, oh, the likelihood of us matching seems so low. And the fact that we did was a miracle.
What was your reaction when you learned it was a match?
I think we were just both surprised. You know, it was just like, you know, because it was just one more thing. And like I said, the whole time you're just waiting for the no, we can't go on. And then when we got it, it was just like, it's going to happen. This is really going to happen after all this time. So it was.
I probably cried.
And that was an appropriate response.
Yeah.
Yeah, your story is so beautiful. And Jill, you'd kind of talked about this a little bit, about having to wait. You know, if had it not been for Mary Ann, you know, you could have been waiting. Michelle, you know, how long is somebody typically on the transplant list before they're able to get an organ?
You know, for our area and with our center, I would say 3 to 5 years. But recently in the last year, we've changed how we receive our organ allocation. So that time's a little shorter, but generally 3 to 5 years. And that's really not a long time. Some of the bigger transplant centers, you know, the west side of the state, California, New York, where there's just a higher population of people, they can be waiting for much more, up to 10 years and beyond.
And can all hospitals do this type of surgery, or only certain hospitals limited to transplant?
You're correct. So it has to be a transplant center. And so for us, what's really cool being in the Northwest and just the only transplant center in the area where we can do living kidney donors, we can do the deceased kidney donors, pancreas, and even heart transplant. But it's nice for patients like Jill, where, you know, living where she does, it's a little bit of a drive, but it's still close enough that she's able to have this done and recover and recuperate basically at home with the support of her loved ones.
Perfect. And now for our audience members who are listening, if you have any questions for either Michelle, Mary Ann, or Jill, please put those in the chat and we'll get those answered. We're coming up close to time, so I want to make sure if those questions are out there, you know that you have the ability to ask them. Mary Ann, this next one's for you. Why would you encourage other people to become a living donor?
Yeah, it's just such a remarkable thing to be a part of, that our bodies can do this. And it's such an honor to be used in a way like this, to be able to do this. As I was going through the process with it, I just kept getting different things that would come at me. And one of the scriptures was, whoever has 2 coats should share with someone who has none. That came out of Luke. And that's just what I felt like. I have 2 kidneys. You can have one. And I would love to encourage anybody out there that's thinking about it. I would love to talk to you. I'd love to talk to you about the process and what it entails. But to get to know, Michelle had said it at one time, and it was kind of cool, but it was like, you don't just save one person with it. It's 2 people, because then Jill comes off of the transplant list and somebody else moves up there now. And so it's just an amazing thing to be a part of. Like I said, it's just so amazing that our bodies can do this, and that they can heal, and that we were created the way that we were so that you can, do this.
One of the things when we were recovering, and that seeing her have to be in pain for me was one of the hard things. And she always gonna make me feel better. So after she was starting to feel better, she said, this is nothing. I would do this again in a heartbeat. Just, it was just incredible that she
I absolutely would do it all over again.
If I had more than one kidney to give, I'd do one.
I just can't do it quite yet. I need it for now. But yeah, it just, I would encourage anybody out there, you know what, it's to do it. Just, everybody says, how could you do that for somebody? It's like, if it's somebody you love, you absolutely would step in and do it. To me, it's the ones that do it for people they don't even know that is just the most remarkable thing ever, that they're that selfless and they would do that. Of course, I'm going to do it for somebody I love, somebody that you care about. We went to great lengths here with the county government. Actually, we had to change. Jill couldn't work under me any longer, or she could work under me, but I can't supervise her pay, vacation, different things like that. So I actually had to put her under the county commissioners for that kind of stuff. And so I'm like, I'm keeping her, but you can have her. It's like one of those things. And so it's great though. She has 4 bosses now instead of just me.
The citizens of Ponderay County, I'm sure, are very appreciative, because you don't want to have to hold it. Well, I gave you my kidney. You can't have that.
Well, and I always tease, it's so hard to find good staff these days. And I'm like, that's all you need is a kidney. I got one,
Is there anything else that you would like to share with us today? And this question is for all 3 of you, Michelle, Marianne, and Jill.
Well, I think I'll step in and just say, again, the website to apply for our center here in Spokane at Sacred Heart is www.sacredheartlivingdonor.org. Again, it's a 10 to 15 minute questionnaire that gets sent to our living donor team, and we assess that. You have to be between 18 years and 65 years of age. Again, healthy with no evidence of diabetes or high blood pressure, strong kind of mental health stability. And again, there's things that can automatically screen you out. And if that does happen, it sends you an email. But once you pass the initial screening, it gets sent to our team. And then we contact you and do a further questionnaire. And again, takes about 4 to 6 months to evaluate individually, really individualized as far as that. And like Marianne said, I just like to close that it is really cool for living donors because they do help their recipient, number 1. But number 2, the second reason is because that allows for other recipients to move up and have the opportunity to move up the wait list and reduce their wait time. So it's huge.
Yes, excellent point. Thank you for bringing that up again. Marianne, Jill, anything else you'd like to add?
I would just say, if you're thinking about doing something like this, do it. Do something that's bigger than you ever thought you could do. It's remarkable to be a part of it. And just to I don't know, the team walks you through it. It's a fantastic, it's such a cool experience to get to be a part of something this big. It was pretty awesome.
Besides thanking Marianne for her generous gift, I also would like to thank the team at Providence Sacred Heart. They were all caring and got us through this, and they were awesome. So thank you.
Yeah, definitely a team approach.
Well, and I'd like to thank you, Michelle, Marianne, and Jill, for joining us today, and to everybody who's listening and those who sent us in questions. If you are looking for medical advice, please visit providence.org. Make sure to follow Providence on social media at Providence on Twitter and under Providence Health System on Instagram, Facebook, and LinkedIn, so you can see more great content like this one today. Thank you so much, and have a wonderful rest of your day.
Thank you.
Thank you.